welcome to today's podcast of the Bookweaver's Quill. Today we're going to focus on validation and the power that we lose or receive when we are trying to validate what's going on in our writing as creatives.
Well, yes, we took a little bit of a hiatus and we're excited to be back. So how did we want to start this? Jackie, did you want to read your passage?
Sure, I could read it and then talk a little bit about, why I chose this one. Let me just pull it up. I'm going to be reading it off of my computer, so
Hmm.
please bear with me. So this is an excerpt from House of Unwound Thread when the protagonist, who happens to be amnesiac, is engaged in a novel therapy in hopes of regaining her memory. And during the therapy session, Era believes she sees a woman slip something into her bag, and this passage follows that moment as Era is searching through her knapsack. The pocket was empty, just like all the others. A yell of distress escaped me as I cradled my head in my hands. I had tried so hard to deny it, but understanding flooded over me, illuminating and bright. It felt like I'd been groping around in a dark room, but somebody had come and torn open the shutters, letting the sunlight pour in, allowing it to leak all the way into the deepest corners and crevices, exposing the truth. The final symptom had arrived, the one I had refused to pronounce out loud. If the woman had only been in my mind, what else had I made up? What other lies had I come to believe? That's it.
That was powerful.
Mm,
Thank
yeah.
you.
So did you want to tell us a little bit about why you chose this passage for validation and power?
Yes. Originally, I was thinking about a different type of passage, which was speaking about validation from applause, from other people, from outsiders, from bystanders. And then I kept coming back. I just kept thinking about this particular passage because it looks at the way sometimes that we seek validation in a different way. And I think a lot of us do that. And it's instead of from other people or applause, a lot of times we seek validation from proof, um, like from
Mhm.
evidence that our experiences are real.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the moment that we require something outside of ourselves to confirm our sanity, then we've really placed our power into the hands of somebody else, the external.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, very
And
much
that's
so.
exactly what the main
Mhm.
character is doing here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I love that this is a young adult fiction
Mm,
because I think it helps young adults work through as they read, certainly that passage. That's one of the biggest things in their lives is they're not sure if they're validated by some of their peers, some of their friends, that type of thing. And I think it's beautiful the way that you articulated it or wrote it in this passage
thank
because you
you.
say making it up. Did she make it up or did she not? And I think that's a huge question for young adults. Am I
Hmm.
making up the story in my head or am I not?
Mm-hmm.
And
Am
the
I
more times you
seeing?
run it over in your head, the more times
Hmm.
it changes, and
Yeah,
then you don't
absolutely.
remember. Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? Am I feeling what I'm feeling? I can't tell you how many times, like growing up, I would feel something and I'd be like, this feels wrong or this feels off or something. But then I'm like, am I making that up? Am I,
Hmm.
or is it a real feeling? So even just that aspect of it. So,
Exactly. It's funny to prepare for today. I decided to do something totally different. And I'll just interject if it's okay with the two of you
mhm.
in some of those things, because I decided to look up and really sit and think about the creative process and us as creators and writers, because that's one of the things that happens to us. We want to know if our work
Mm.
is validated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that, like you said a couple of minutes ago, Jackie, we wait for the outside world to validate what we've written
Mhm.
rather than sitting within ourselves and being absolutely confident that what we're writing and what our characters are saying, is validating, is, exactly what we want to do.
Mm.
So it was very interesting, but I love the way that you did this because you show both sides of this particular um, concept. You know,
Mm-hmm.
do we make it up in our heads or is it really very true and everything like that? So I think it's very well written.
Thank you.
Yeah, very well written.
I
It's
have to
funny.
say, Anna Marie, I
Go ahead.
resonated so much with what you just said because especially with writing series, for me, it's like, you keep continuing to do the thing, right? If you write
Mhm.
one book, you're like, all right, I wrote one book and maybe it will be validated, maybe it will not, right? When you're writing a series, you're like, okay, now I've written, like, I've invested my life in these characters.
Mhm.
Like these characters are part of my life now. Not that they aren't with one book, right? But
Mhm.
you're continuing their journey. You're going on, you're diving deeper into their world and into their lives and you're like, I can't tell you how many times I say, is this even worth it? Like to do this because of
Right,
wanting the validation from the outside. So,
right, right. And the thing is, your characters, you live with them.
mm-hmm,
They're real.
mm-hmm,
They're absolutely real. So you're living with them. And for someone else to say, mm-mm,
right,
you know,
right,
it's not that. It's
right.
not that. It's a lot. And like when we do write, we're giving the essence of who we are and allowing our characters to speak through us. And then when they get criticized or totally ignored, it's funny, one of the writers that had that hard time was Herman Melville, and
Mm,
he's the one that wrote Moby Dick.
mm-hmm.
And the criticism that he got for Moby Dick was unbelievable. Unbelievable. It was criticized and just torn to shreds. And he died believing that, it was just a total failure. And
Right.
now it's one of the biggest classics.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, listening to outside validation, that also happened to Keats
Mm.
and his work, his poetry and stuff.
That
Mhm.
makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
something that I've done is I read a lot of I try to I read all books, but I read a lot of indie authors. And the
Mhm.
thing that I try to do is look at their work from that artistic perspective. Like I look at it from that perspective of how I write books. Like this is the character they birthed. This is the storyline they birthed, right? Like this
Mhm.
is what was going on in their mind. I don't read it for like, okay, what's the market trend this year? It's like, and that's
Mhm.
where I think there's a definite difference of how people view things because like there are certain books that they just follow a certain mold and they go like this, right? But creativity is not so restricted, right? It's
Mhm.
expansive. And I
Mhm.
think that when you open your mind to that and you start looking at it from that perspective, you appreciate the art that is being designed, and you
Exactly.
appreciate the story and you appreciate the characters from a whole other level. And it's actually magnificent. It truly is.
Mhm.
You see people's brilliance. You really do.
Right, right. And I think too, if we keep seeking validation, uh, we absolutely surrender our power to other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm. Yeah. And I certainly know my own personal story, and I'm going to all of it, is that, I mean, that's what happened to me. I mean, in high school, it was one teacher's criticism,
Mm-hmm.
continual criticism. She did it more than once, but it was her criticism that just stopped me. I believed her. I
Yeah.
believe, and Jackie, I think that's why your passage is so important to me because at that time in high school, I didn't have that confidence. And so I allowed that voice to keep repeating when I would sit and write. And it's taken me for a very long time to stand on my own 2 feet and just say, no, you weren't
Hmm.
correct.
Yeah.
Those learned programs or those learned, beliefs about ourselves are very difficult,
Yeah.
especially once they're fossilized. Um, because once they're fossilized, they become part of our bone. They're part of our structure, and we really do believe these things about ourselves. And honestly, people should really think, and we should also think about our comments to other people because
Hmm.
we also, even unintentionally, could create the same type of structure in somebody else's life. So we should be really
Hmm.
careful about the way that we speak to each other and the way that we comment on each other, especially in moments of creativity and expansion.
Hmm. Well, I
Absolutely.
think too, when people make comments, they don't realize that we've put these characters on paper, but there's still a lot of the character that is part of us.
Mhm.
We're revealing how we see things, how we feel about things, how we understand the world. Now, we as writers do know that our characters take over. Sometimes we try to write them in one way, and they say, no, 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 I'm not going that direction.
Mm.
But
Don't I know it?
yeah, they don't often stay where we would like them to stay. But still, that type of non-validation criticism uh, hits home. It hits the essence of who we are, and uh, and we have to realize that the reception that we have to take our identity away from that.
Hmm.
Our work is not our identity;
Hmm.
it's what we glean from it and everything.
Yeah, and
So,
people have a right to not like a character or not like something, that
oh, sure.
happens. They have a
Hmm.
right to not like it. I've
Hmm.
kind of come to that place where I'm like, okay, some people don't like that I like that I write romantasy. They don't like it. They don't like that I do that.
Hmm.
That's not, my I just need to keep doing it because I love doing it. Or
Hmm.
they don't like, that this happened or that let's say like the book didn't start off in a fantasy world or whatever it is. And I think that people have the right to that as much as they have a right to like chocolate ice cream or vanilla ice cream. But if we can separate ourselves from that personal um like thread to their I try to put the ice cream like metaphor in my head and be like, okay, imagine your book is vanilla ice cream and they like chocolate ice cream, it's like
Right.
that's okay. Um but that doesn't have anything to do with me because there's a ton of people that like vanilla ice cream, So it's
Hmm.
like, um,
Hmm.
and you don't know who you're going to, especially when you go back to like a teacher or somebody who's in a place of what we would consider power in terms of writing. You
Hmm.
don't know if you're going to be in somebody's company who doesn't like vanilla ice cream and
Exactly.
you've written a vanilla ice cream book, it's
Hmm.
like I always put that in my head because it's so easy, but it's like it's something that I talked about in Oh the Stories You Will Write. Like there was this whole thing about criticism and then constructive criticism, because constructive criticism could be really really powerful for you, and it's the reason why you give your book to a beta reader, or you give your book out, or you ask for feedback from friends and family or whoever's going to read it. But then there's like criticism, which is just sort of rooted in like a person's their own belief systems and their own, maybe they were criticized and so they bring
Hmm.
that to the table when they go to like look at somebody else's work and you have no idea. So you're just receiving that end of the negativity or whatever it is, without any context, truly.
Right.
And, if that person sat down and said, hey, I always wanted to write a book and now I'm reading your book and I feel like a little jealous, you'd be like, hey, let me help you finish your project, but instead they're like, this book stinks. Like, you're just like, okay. So,
Yeah.
there's no
Hmm.
context to their,
Right.
criticism.
It's funny because I'm in two book groups, but I was in one, and this particular book got so many accolades, and it was actually even made into a TV series. But I chanced upon one critic's write-up, and it was horrific. I
Mm,
mean, just horrific. And this one person's, and had I read that, I might not have read the book because
mm, mm-hmm,
of what this person said. I did not agree with him once I read the book. The book I thought was wonderful. But yeah, so and in today's social media type thing for us
mm,
who are creatives and are writing books and things like that, that's tough.
mm-hmm.
That's tough. That there are things that are out there that are going to be. And how do we hold on and believe in our own work?
It's
We're
very
talking
difficult.
about, yeah, we're talking about validation. Well, how do you validate yourself? I mean, you have to have pretty thick skin. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask the two of you. Like, if we don't hear those applauds, what's going to help us to believe in the work?
Dear.
Sure. The one thing that I had done because my first novel that was published, I was so excited. I even had a film team call me up and ask me who had the rights in case they wanted to make a movie off of it and stuff. Like I thought, like I,
I've arrived.
Mm.
and then they put it in Publishers Weekly, and they just completely decimated me. They just killed me. They
Oh,
just that was like the now I realized afterwards that like a lot of writers don't even get into Publishers Weekly. So that was actually like kind of its own success. I mean, when you think
mhm.
about things like in
Right.
retrospect. But one of the things that I did was I would just open the book myself and took a passage at random and read it out loud or recorded it and listened to it and said, you know what, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Because sometimes you have to realize that your vision is not their vision.
Mm,
And where you were going with something, we're all on our path of life. We're not at the same place on our path. And that same very person could pick up my book right now and have a totally different understanding of it than they did back in 2019
I would
when
Mm-hmm.
it was
agree.
published.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And there's no way that I can continue letting, other people's, like Stephanie said, this person has the right to have that opinion, and that opinion might change.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people like chocolate and then they try vanilla and then they realize they like the strawberry.
They like them both, you know?
Well, yeah, I think that leads us to the one question, like, are we writing or are we creating for expression or approval?
Mm,
And so I think
yeah.
we've got to sit with that ourselves and say, am I doing this just to express myself or am I doing it for approval?
So I can answer that for you. Like I can can 100% tell you that the series that I'm doing now is for expression. Like
Mhm.
my characters want to be alive and they want to do this thing and they want to because I always say to myself like what about if nobody ever reads this? And I'm like I love this series. Like I love it. Like I would read this series if somebody wrote it, you know? And I think like that speaks for like that validation of like
Mhm.
this is expression. Not that I don't want people to I want people to like it. I want people to buy it. I want it to become a TV series. I think it would look really cool as a series. But like when I'm writing and I'm sitting at my desk and I'm just thinking of these ideas and I have my notebook and I'm like writing scenes, it's expression, you know? It's like these people want to come out, they want to give their, story, and I'm gonna let them do it, you know?
Mhm.
Can
Yeah.
I add something? Some of those characters in that book, like I want them to come out. Like like they need to
I do too.
become more real than they are on the page. Like I need
Right.
to, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And some of the things that they have chosen to do in book three, I question. I do. I'm like, wow,
Mhm.
well, I wouldn't have chosen that, but you are. But that's how they want to express themselves, you know? And yeah, I do have
Mhm.
a short passage if
I was going to say this is a perfect time for
yeah,
you.
this is actually from book three, so I'm also going to be reading it off my computer because it's not in its final form, if you will. And if I can find it. Okay, so this is from, it's called The Heirs of Ash and Starlight. So book one is The Heir of Light and Shadows. Book two is A Bond of Blood, Stone, and Fire. And then this is book three, The Heirs of Ash and Starlight. I don't want to give too much context around what's going on because of the spoilers, but I will say that in this passage, there is a kingdom called Dragonmoor, and something has happened, and both of the characters are affiliated with this kingdom. And both of them want to go back, but the one decides that the other one should stay. So this is, well, let me read it and then we can kind of like chat about it. Now Cedric was gone, and the bond pulsed on Lizzie's wrist. It was warm and familiar, letting her know Cedric was still connected to her. But he wasn't there either. Lizzie stopped pacing and stared at the faint glow beneath her skin. Cedric had left her because he feared what waited for her in Dragonmoor. He wanted so badly to protect her that he was willing to decide for her. But he hadn't considered what she wanted. She pressed her lips together, a hollow ache forming in her chest. If her powers were as strong as everyone believed them to be, then she could have faced whatever waited for them in Dragonmoor. She could have fought. She could have at least chosen for herself. A realization settled over her slowly, and she decided she would no longer be left behind. So that's
Powerful.
Well, that's riveting.
that.
Wow.
Yeah, so
But
without going into like too much of the storyline, there's a point I think like we were talking about like authors being parts of ourselves. Like this, and the reason why we chose this topic is obviously like I feel like I brought it up to you, Anna Marie, and then we were kind of like
mhm,
talking about it, but this idea of
right.
like, you want to feel like your decisions are, and this is another aspect of validation and power, right? You want to feel like your decisions are um not the right ones, because, we can never really know that sometimes, but you want to feel like you're in line with your decisions. Like, this is what
Mhm.
I want to do, this is what I choose to do. And then if somebody comes along and makes you feel like, no, 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 you can't do that. Like, you're not ready for that, or you can't do this, or you're overreacting, or you're too sensitive, or, calm down, or whatever it is,
Right,
depending
right,
on the context. um, it does something to you. Like, and that hollow ache in your chest is a real feeling of like, wow, like I didn't get to make that choice.
mhm,
I didn't get to honor what I truly felt
right,
about something.
yeah. So if no one read your work for a year, would you keep writing?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd have to. I mean, at this point, with these characters,
Hmm.
their story needs to be told regardless.
Right.
So that's just gonna happen. Like, you know what I mean?
Hmm. How about you, Jackie?
Oh yeah, I mean I do because like my stuff is not out. Like most of the stuff that I've written is not even out, but I do continue writing almost constantly, constantly,
Hmm.
or creating of some sort,
Hmm.
either visual arts or fine arts or literary art.
Hmm. Yeah. Because
And
that's a
you?
big question, if we continue to still express ourselves, even though we're either not putting it out into the world or it's not being accepted, then we're
I think
really
it's great.
strengthening our own power.
mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. I know, like I said, I've been looking into different writers and what they did, and Emily Dickinson is a perfect example of the fact that she had such talent. And she did put her work out there, and some of it was not accepted. Okay. There was one critic who was very harsh with her. And although she did continue to write, it wasn't until after she died, because she had a small bit of work that was out into the world. But when she passed away, they found like 1,800 poems
Mm,
that she had just kept those aside because she just didn't put everything out into the world. And that's such a shame because her voice, I mean, now her voice is so strong, but I mean, during her lifetime. So we see that sometimes there's that back and forth struggle within yourself as a creative as to, do I really believe in myself or do I believe in the outside, coming in? And
mm-hmm,
will I keep writing just because I might not be getting the applause that I thought?
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. hmm
It's a great point.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. But you said a couple of minutes ago, Steph, about your characters and stuff, that they're so much a part of your lives. And the one little book that I wrote, Daddy is a Dinosaur, I didn't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
That little
Mm-hmm.
voice of that character just kept following me around
Mm-hmm.
and insisted that I write down what he was saying, which I did. It's not like I really had a choice. He just
Right.
kept coming in and saying da 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 da.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're like,
So,
okay. I love when that
uh-huh.
happens when you're like in the middle of doing something and it's always something that like I shouldn't have a pen and a paper for.
Mhm,
Right? It's like I don't know. Let's say like I'm driving, or
mhm.
whatever it is. Like I'm doing
Right.
something and then like my characters are talking and they're like, "Oh, what if this happened?" And I'm like,
Mhm,
"Okay." Or like dialogue or even like scenes like sometimes I'll be doing something where the characters are ta a lot of times at nighttime. Like I'm just about to fall asleep and then like I'm envisioning a scene and they're talking and like my notebook and pen is downstairs and I'm like I'm never gonna remember this, but you know what? Like they're talking and the scene is playing out and hopefully I'll remember in the morning kind of deal.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, very
So,
much so. That's so exciting that when that happens.
hmm
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's why we grab our cell phones and we
I
just
know.
put it in notes.
Sometimes I try to just like voice memo it because I'm
Yeah.
like or I'll just stop what I'm doing, even though it's like I have no business stopping what I'm doing in that moment. But I'm like, I need to write this down because, like, it's like
Yeah, when it's
important.
coming through, it's coming
Yeah.
through.
And I do feel like that, and like, not to get into like channeling and stuff, but I feel
Mhm,
like sometimes it comes through in such a way. And I know you said this about if Daddy were a dinosaur, but it comes so fast and it comes so like forcefully that if I don't sit down and write it, it's like I can't get it out of like fast enough. Like the
mhm.
thoughts and the dialogue and the characters are going way faster than my brain is able to compute it
Exactly.
to put it down.
Exactly.
And I'm like, well, where is that coming from? It's
hmm
like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I feel badly because I can't remember the name of the creative person, but Elizabeth Gilbert tells a story about someone that she had interviewed. And I believe she was a poet. And she said just what you just mentioned, Steph, that when something was coming, it was coming. And if she didn't stop and get it down, and she told a story to Elizabeth that she was out in the field, doing something. So this was a long time ago. And she could feel this download coming in. And
Mm,
she ran,
hmm.
ran home to get into the house so that she could put it down.
Yeah,
The way Elizabeth tells it is beautiful. So it's worth, people are interested, it's worth trying to find that particular story that she tells. I
sure.
think it's in Big Magic. I believe it's in Big Magic.
Okay.
But yeah, so it does. When it's there, we've got to capture it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got to capture it. Um, it's funny, like when someone does give us accolades for our work, and I'm going to go back to what you wrote just a second ago, Jackie, or you read just a second ago. This young lady wasn't sure if the woman was in front of her or if she was part of her imagination.
Mm,
Okay. So that's like, does she believe or doesn't she believe?
mm,
Okay. What do we think about our reactions to people's applause or
mm.
comments about our own work? do we believe it because
Mm.
we want to believe it, or do we believe it because it's truth? I mean, we're part of that. We're receiving it. What do you think?
Mhm. It's a powerful idea as well.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
can tell you right now that I have met some really wonderful people on TikTok who have read my work. And there are authors as well. Some of them aren't, but they're just like really cool people. I really like them. Um, and when they praise my work and they're so nice, oh, this is such a great series. Like everyone should read this series. I hate to say this out loud, but I just don't believe, like I have a hard time believing people when they tell me they like my work. And that's
Mm,
obviously my inner
right.
critic, right? Of being like, do they really like it or are they just saying it because they like me maybe or they, it's like they think I'm cool or I'm not
Mhm.
that cool. I'm like, so maybe they do like my work. Let's just,
Mhm.
level that. But yeah, I have a hard time when people tell me they really like something. Like Jackie, when you tell me like, "Oh, I really like this." Like I've learned to be like, "All right, trust what people are saying because those people are like the people that are gonna support your work. Like
Mhm.
whether you just met them yesterday or whatever. But like, I think it's my own insecurities like over the years that I feel come out even when something's like really great. Like I text you guys the other day because like my book is like in a store, right? And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, is it just because of this? It's like
Mhm.
I always switch it to that thing like, is it just because? Is it just because of? Is it just because of? Instead of just allowing it to be like what it is.
Mhm. Yeah,
Mm.
very much so. Very much so. Yeah, and I think a lot. But I think when we do things like that, we're handing the pen, we're handing the pen to someone else
Yeah.
rather than us continuing to write our story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Why do
And the
we?
truth of the matter is that nothing changed the week before you found out that that book was in that store.
Right.
That work was still the
Mhm.
same.
Right.
And just because that validation happened, that now you may or may not change the way you feel about that work, but that work is exactly the same.
Right.
It's right exactly what
It's
it
exactly
was.
the same. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Except for that prologue that was added to the beginning of.
Oh yeah, that's a prologue.
I'm actually going to post that as a video. So, I'll post it on Stella Jade, but I'll put a link in here so people can watch it if they want.
That's excellent. That's really good. So, in essence, validation is important, but our power is believing in ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and believing that our characters will not betray us. They're there to help us.
Right.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, thank you guys for joining us today on the Bookweaver's Quill. This certainly was a fun discussion. I loved it. Don't forget to
Like, subscribe, and comment on this video. It inspires us to keep bringing you more content.
thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.